Commander John Ellis stood on the bridge of the USS Frontier, his hands clasped behind his back as he stared at the massive view screen. The alien ship hung in the darkness of space like a strange, beautiful crystal. Its surface caught the sunlight and broke it into thousands of rainbow patterns. The ship was easily 3 times the size of the Frontier, Earth's newest and largest space vessel. "Sir, the Vexari ambassador is requesting to speak with you again," said Lieutenant Sam Garcia from his communication station. Ellis nodded. "Put him through." The screen flickered, and the alien face of Ambassador Zeroth appeared. The Vexari looked almost human, except for their pale blue skin, large compound eyes that shimmered with an inner light, and the small mandibles that framed their mouth. Zeroth wore what the humans had learned was a formal military uniform, a seamless silver bodysuit with strange symbols etched across the chest. "Commander Ellis," Zeroth said, his voice translated through the computer system. "Have you considered our request for a military demonstration?" Ellis took a deep breath. The Vexari had arrived 3 weeks ago, entering Earth's solar system with no warning. The world had held its breath, expecting war. Instead, the aliens had opened communications immediately, explaining they had been observing humanity for decades, and finally decided the time was right for formal contact. So far, the meetings had gone well. The Vexari seemed peaceful, if a bit proud of their technological advances. They had shared medical knowledge and star charts showing systems humans had never seen. But they were most interested in Earth's military capabilities, which made many world leaders nervous. "Ambassador, I've been authorized to conduct a limited weapons demonstration," Ellis said carefully. "We can proceed tomorrow at 800 hours. Zeroth's mandibles clicked together in what humans had learned was a sign of pleasure. "Excellent. This is standard protocol for all new species we encounter. A simple exchange of capabilities helps us understand each other better." After the communication ended, Ellis turned to his second-in-command, Lieutenant Kate Foster. "What do you think?" he asked quietly. Foster shrugged. "Either they're telling the truth about this being standard protocol, or they're sizing us up to see if we're worth conquering." "Let's hope it's the first one," Ellis said. He walked to the window and looked out at the stars. "But prepare for the second." Admiral Patty Winters didn't like the idea one bit. She sat at the head of the conference table in the secure room beneath the Pentagon, surrounded by military leaders from around the world. "The United Nations has approved a limited demonstration," she told the assembled officers. "We'll show basic weapon systems only, standard missiles, railguns, and defensive capabilities. Nothing classified, nothing that reveals our true limits." General Rick Martinez of the North American Defense Coalition leaned forward. "We should use practice ordnance only. I don't trust these aliens, no matter how friendly they seem." "Agreed," said Winters. "Training protocols only. Standard practice rounds with the usual safety margins." Captain Joe Diaz raised his hand. "Ma'am, should we inform the Vexari that we're using practice rounds? In my experience, being transparent about training exercises prevents misunderstandings." Winters considered this for a moment. "No. Let's see how they react first. If they ask, we'll explain. But something tells me we should keep our cards close to the chest for now." The next day, 3 human ships, the USS Frontier, the Chinese vessel Longpeace, and the European Union's Galileo, formed a line at the edge of the solar system. A dozen target drones had been deployed at various distances, simple metal spheres that would record impact data. On the Frontier's observation deck, Commander Ellis stood with Ambassador Zeroth and 4 other Vexari officials. The aliens watched, with their shimmering eyes, mandibles occasionally twitching in what Ellis had learned was anticipation. "We'll begin with standard missile systems," Ellis explained. "Each ship will target 4 drones." "Very good," Zeroth replied. "We are eager to see human military precision." Ellis nodded to Lieutenant Foster, who gave the order. "All ships commence firing sequence Alpha." The first missiles launched, streaking across space toward their targets. As planned, each missile followed standard training protocols, deliberately missing their targets by calculated margins, some by 50 meters, others by as much as 200. This was how all Earth military forces practiced, with carefully calibrated near misses to avoid wasting expensive drones while still collecting useful targeting data. The Vexari delegation's reaction was immediate and unexpected. A strange chittering sound filled the observation deck. The aliens' mandibles were clicking rapidly and their shoulders shook. Ellis frowned. The translation system took a moment to process, then displayed laughter, amusement. The Vexari were laughing at them. "Is something wrong, Ambassador?" Ellis asked. Xyroth composed himself with visible effort. "I apologize, Commander. We did not expect such imprecision. Perhaps your targeting systems need calibration? Or is this an issue with your propulsion technology?" Before Ellis could respond, another Vexari official leaned toward Xyroth and spoke in their native language. The translation came through Ellis's earpiece. "Their technology is even more primitive than we assessed. They cannot even hit stationary targets." Ellis kept his face neutral, though anger flared inside him. Lieutenant Foster caught his eye from across the deck and raised an eyebrow slightly. They both understood what was happening, but neither corrected the aliens' misunderstanding. "Let's continue with the railgun demonstration," Ellis said calmly. The railguns fired, again deliberately missing their targets by pre-calculated margins. This time the Vexari officials didn't laugh openly, but Ellis could see the dismissive looks they exchanged with each other. "Now, we will demonstrate our defensive systems," Ellis continued. "We'll launch missiles from the drones toward our ships and show how we intercept them." This demonstration went exactly as planned. The defense systems allowed some missiles to get surprisingly close before destroying them, creating the impression of barely adequate protection. It was standard practice in Earth military exercises to push defensive systems to their limits, allowing for realistic training scenarios. The Vexari were visibly unimpressed. "Thank you for this demonstration, Commander," Xyroth said when it was complete. "It has been informative." Ellis nodded politely. "We appreciate your interest in our capabilities, Ambassador." As the Vexari officials left the observation deck, Ellis overheard one say to another, "Their weapons are no threat. They would miss our ships even if they tried to attack." Once they were alone, Foster approached Ellis. "Should we have told them those were practice rounds?" Ellis shook his head slowly. "No. Admiral Winters was right. Let them think what they want for now." "They think we're primitive," Foster said. "They were laughing at us." "Yes," Ellis replied, a small smile forming on his face. "And that might be the biggest advantage we could have hoped for." 8 hours later, Ellis sat in Admiral Winters' office giving his report on the demonstration. Winters listened carefully, her face revealing nothing. "So they think our weapons are inaccurate," she said when Ellis finished. "They believe we're technologically inferior." "Yes, ma'am. They were quite amused by our apparent inability to hit stationary targets." Winters leaned back in her chair. "And they have no idea those were practice rounds? That we deliberately missed targets during training exercises?" "None, ma'am. From what we've learned about their culture, the Vexari don't seem to have a concept of holding back or practicing with less than full capability. When they demonstrate something, they show maximum efficiency." "Interesting." Winters tapped her fingers on the desk. "What was your impression of them, Commander? Your gut feeling?" Ellis considered the question carefully. "They're advanced, no doubt about it. But they're arrogant. They believe their technology makes them superior, and now they think our weapons are no threat to them, which means they've probably shown us everything they've got," Winters mused, "while we've revealed almost nothing." "Exactly, ma'am." Admiral Winters stood and walked to the window, looking out at the night sky where, somewhere above, the Vexari ship orbited Earth. "Let's keep it that way for now, Commander." Dismissed. As Ellis left the office, he couldn't help but smile. The aliens had laughed at humans for missing their targets. They had no idea humans missed on purpose. And that mistake might prove to be the most important tactical advantage Earth could have hoped for. The Pentagon's secure conference room was silent except for the soft hum of air conditioning. Admiral Patty Winters stood at the head of the long table, her uniform crisp and perfect as always. On the wall-sized screen behind her, images of the Vexari ship rotated slowly, along with data collected during yesterday's weapons demonstration. "Ladies and gentlemen," Winters began, "I think we have a unique situation on our hands." Around the table sat 12 people, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, key scientists, and the top diplomatic advisors for first contact scenarios. They all looked tired. None of them had slept much since the aliens arrived 3 weeks ago. Commander Ellis reports that the Vexari actually laughed at our military demonstration. Winters continued. They believe our targeting systems are primitive because our weapons consistently miss their targets by similar margins. General Rick Martinez frowned. Did Ellis explain about practice rounds? No, Winters replied. And I think that was the right call. Dr. Olivia Reed, the lead xenoanthropologist for the first contact team, nodded in agreement. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and quick hands that never seemed to stop moving. The Admiral is right, Dr. Reed said. My team has been studying the cultural information the Vexari have shared with us. They evolved very differently from humans. She tapped on her tablet and new images appeared on the screen, pictures of the Vexari home planet. It looked like a world of perfect order, cities built in perfect circles, farms arranged in perfect squares. Even the forests seemed to grow in straight lines. The Vexari evolved on a planet with abundant resources but intense competition, Reed explained. Their evolutionary advantage was perfect efficiency. No wasted motion, no wasted resources, no wasted time. She changed the image to show a diagram of Vexari evolution. They never developed the concept of practice as we understand it, she continued. When they attempt something, they expect perfect results the first time. Their education system doesn't include repetition or gradual improvement. Either you perform perfectly, or you're assigned to a different task where you can be perfect. Vice. Admiral George Miller leaned forward. Are you saying they don't practice? How do they learn new skills? They simulate in their minds, Reed answered. Their brains process information differently than ours. They can run perfect mental simulations, so physical practice is considered wasteful. When they demonstrate something, especially military capability, they demonstrate maximum efficiency. The room fell silent as everyone processed this information. So when we deliberately missed those targets, Martinez began. They thought we were trying our best and failing. Winters finished, for him. They have no concept of pulling punches, Dr. Reed nodded. Exactly. The concept of intentionally missing a target would seem completely irrational to them. Captain Joe Diaz, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. What about their own weapons demonstration? When they showed us their capabilities last week, were they showing us everything they've got? Dr. Reed and Admiral Winters exchanged meaningful looks. Yes, Reed said. Based on their psychology and culture, I believe they showed us the exact limits of their current technology. Maximum range, maximum accuracy, maximum destructive power. No holding back. While we showed them, Miller began. Next to nothing, Winters confirmed. Just basic systems operating at minimum training levels. The implications hung in the air. Humanity had accidentally gained a significant tactical advantage. General Martinez tapped his fingers on the table. So what do we do with this information? That's why we're here, Winters said. We need to decide how to proceed. The Vexari High Command has requested a meeting to discuss a potential military alliance. Based on what we've seen, I believe they're going to offer us protection in exchange for resources. Like the strong looking after the weak, said Miller with a frown. Exactly, Winters replied. They think they're technologically superior in every way. Dr. Reed cleared her throat. There's another aspect we should consider. The Vexari have been completely honest with us so far. They believe in perfect information exchange. If we deliberately deceive them, it could damage relations if they ever discover the truth. But we haven't lied, pointed out Martinez. We simply haven't explained our training protocols. A lie of omission is still a form of deception, Reed countered. The room fell silent again. The ethical question hung in the air. Was it right to maintain this advantage through a misunderstanding? Commander John Ellis, who had been standing quietly at the back of the room, finally spoke up. "If I may, Admiral?" Winters nodded. "Go ahead, Commander." "During my conversations with Ambassador Zyroth, I've noticed something interesting," Ellis said. "The Vexari respect strength above all else. Their entire social structure is based on capability. They're not evil or hostile, but they automatically assume a protection role over those they see as less capable." He walked to the screen and pulled up an image of Earth, as seen from orbit. Right now, they see us as a species in need of their guidance and protection. If we reveal that we've been holding back, they might respect us more, but they might also see us as deceptive. We need to find a middle ground, a way to show our true capabilities without making them feel we tricked them. Dr. Reed nodded slowly. "The commander has a point. In Vexari culture, there's a concept they call revelation of worth. It's when someone previously thought to be ordinary reveals unexpected talents." "Like a coming-of-age ceremony?" asked Captain Diaz. "Similar," Reed replied. "It's highly respected in their culture. If we frame our full capabilities as a revelation of worth, rather than as having deceived them, it might work." Admiral Winters considered this for a long moment. "So we continue with diplomatic relations as planned. We let them believe what they want about our military capabilities for now, but we prepare a demonstration of our actual abilities when the time is right." "And when would that time be?" asked Miller. "When they try to make us a subordinate partner rather than an equal one," Winters said firmly. "Dr. Reed, I want you to work with Commander Ellis to prepare for this revelation of worth. Find the right moment, the right words, the right demonstration to show the Vexari who we really are." Reed nodded. "I understand, Admiral." "In the meantime," Winters continued, "all ships are to maintain current protocols. Let the Vexari believe what they want to believe. Share cultural and scientific information freely, but military details stay classified." She looked around the table at each person. "Any questions?" There were none. "Good," said Winters. "Ambassador, Kelly Rodriguez will lead our diplomatic team to the meeting with Vexari High Command tomorrow. Commander Ellis will accompany her as military advisor. The rest of you prepare your departments for potential rapid changes in our first contact protocols." As people began to file out of the room, Ellis approached Dr. Reed. "Do you think this will work?" he asked quietly. Reed sighed. "I don't know. The Vexari are logical, but they're not human. Their psychology is fundamentally different from ours." "They laughed at us," Ellis said, remembering the strange, chittering sound of alien amusement. "Yes," Reed replied, "but laughter can turn to fear very quickly when you realize your joke is actually a predator." Ellis raised an eyebrow. "Is that what we are? Predators?" Reed shook her head. "No, but we are survivors. Humans practiced hunting and fighting for thousands of years. We know that sometimes the most dangerous enemy isn't the one who shows their full strength. It's the one who waits for the right moment to reveal it." As Ellis left the Pentagon that evening, he looked up at the night sky. Somewhere up there, the Vexari ship hung in orbit, its crew probably still amused by the primitive humans who couldn't even hit simple targets. Little did they know that missing on purpose might be humanity's greatest strength. The Vexari flagship was even more impressive on the inside than it appeared from space. Ambassador Kelly Rodriguez tried not to stare as she walked down a hallway that seemed to be made of living crystal. The walls pulsed with soft blue light. That followed her movement. Commander John Ellis walked half a step behind her, along with Dr. Olivia Reed and 2 security officers. "Remember," Reed whispered, "the Vexari value directness. They don't understand small talk or beating around the bush." Rodriguez nodded. She was a veteran diplomat with 20 years of experience, but nothing in her career had prepared her for negotiating with aliens. "Direct but not confrontational. I understand." A door appeared in the seemingly solid wall ahead, sliding open, without a sound. Inside was a large round room with a circular table. 5 Vexari already sat waiting, their blue skin shimmering under the strange lights. Ambassador Zeroth rose to greet them. "Ambassador Rodriguez, Welcome aboard the Celestial. Harmony. We are pleased you accepted our invitation. The pleasure is ours, Ambassador Zeroth, Rodriguez replied with a practiced smile. We look forward to productive discussions. The humans took their seats across from the aliens. Ellis noticed that the chairs had been specially made to accommodate human bodies, a thoughtful touch that spoke of the Vexari's attention to detail. Let us begin, said a Vexari who had not been introduced. He wore an elaborate silver uniform with more symbols than Zeroth's. I am High Commander Vextari, leader of our expedition to your solar system. Rodriguez inclined her head respectfully. An honor, High Commander. I will be direct, as is our way, Vextari continued. We have observed your species for many years. We have studied your history, your conflicts, your technological development. We have also observed your military capabilities firsthand. Ellis kept his face carefully neutral, though he felt Reed tense slightly beside him. We believe that humanity has great potential, Vexitari said. Your species is creative, adaptable, and resilient. However, you are also technologically underdeveloped in certain areas. Rodriguez raised an eyebrow but said nothing. We propose a formal alliance between our peoples, Vextari continued. The Vexari Dominion would provide protection and technological guidance to Earth. In exchange, we request access to certain raw materials found on your planet and permission to establish outposts in your solar system. Rodriguez glanced at Ellis, then back to Vextari. What kind of protection does Earth need, High Commander? Vextari's mandibles clicked once. The galaxy is not always a peaceful place, Ambassador. There are species far less benevolent than the Vexari. Your current defense systems would be insufficient against more advanced threats. I see, Rodriguez said slowly. And these outposts you wish to establish, would they be military in nature? Some would serve defensive purposes, yes, Vextari admitted. Others would be scientific or mining operations. Ellis recognized the proposal for what it was, a thinly veiled attempt to establish control over Earth and its resources. The Vexari didn't see humans as equals. They saw them as a primitive species in need of guidance and protection. All because they thought humans couldn't even hit simple targets with their weapons. Your offer is generous, Rodriguez said carefully. However, before we proceed with such discussions, my government has authorized me to invite your delegation to observe another demonstration. Zeroth's compound eyes flickered with what the humans had learned to recognize as confusion. Another military demonstration? Yes, Rodriguez confirmed, but of a different nature. We call it an accuracy trial. The 5 Vexari looked at each other, mandibles clicking in their silent communication. Finally, Vextari spoke again. I don't understand the difference between this and what we already observed, he admitted. The previous demonstration showed our practice protocols, Ellis explained, following the carefully prepared script. An accuracy trial demonstrates our precise targeting capabilities under combat conditions. This wasn't exactly a lie. They had been using practice protocols, but the implication that the first demonstration had been officially labeled as such beforehand was a careful misdirection. Practice protocols? Zeroth repeated, the translation system struggling to convey his tone. Dr. Reed stepped in smoothly. In human military tradition, we use deliberate near misses during training exercises to save resources and reduce space debris. It's a long-standing practice dating back centuries. The Vexari delegation fell silent. Ellis could almost see them, processing this new information. You intentionally missed the targets? Vextari finally asked, his mandibles clicking rapidly. Of course, Rodriguez replied casually. There would be no point in destroying practice drones with every exercise. We save our precision and resources for when they truly matter. The implication hung in the air. We weren't showing you our real capabilities. After a long moment, Vextari's mandibles clicked once decisively. We would be interested in observing this accuracy trial. Excellent, Rodriguez said with a smile. We can arrange it for tomorrow. Why not today? Vextari asked. Ellis stepped in. Our ships need time to reconfigure from practice to combat. Protocols. By tomorrow morning, we'll be ready. This was another careful half-truth. The ships didn't need reconfiguration. The weapon systems could switch from training to combat modes in seconds. What they needed was time to prepare a sufficiently impressive demonstration. Very well, Vextari agreed. Tomorrow, then. As the meeting continued, Ellis noticed a subtle change in the Vexari demeanor. The condescension that had been present before was now mixed with something new: uncertainty. They had based their assessment of human capabilities on what they now learned was an incomplete picture. In preparation for tomorrow's demonstration, Rodriguez said as the meeting was wrapping up, "Perhaps we could discuss the technical specifications of the alliance you propose, the exact nature of the protection you're offering." It was a bold move. Now that the Vexari knew humans had been holding back, Rodriguez was pushing for more information about their capabilities. Vexitari hesitated, then nodded. "A reasonable request. I will have our technical officers provide you with an overview." "Thank you," Rodriguez said with a smile. "We look forward to it." As they left the meeting room, Ellis fell into step beside Rodriguez. "That went better than expected," he whispered. "They're recalculating everything now," she replied quietly. "The balance of power just shifted, and they know it." "Do you think they'll still offer the alliance?" Rodriguez smiled. "Yes, but I suspect the terms will be very different by tomorrow evening." Back in their shuttle, as they returned to the USS Frontier, Dr. Reed looked troubled. "Something wrong, Doctor?" Ellis asked. "I'm concerned about how they'll react when they see our true capabilities," she admitted. "The Vexari respect strength, but they also value honesty. They might see this as deception." "We never lied," Rodriguez pointed out. "We simply didn't explain our full capabilities until now." "In their culture, omission is the same as lying," Reed countered. "We need to be careful tomorrow. This demonstration needs to impress them without humiliating them." Ellis looked out the window at the massive Vexari ship growing smaller behind them. It was beautiful and alien and terrifying all at once. "The Vexari thought they were the teachers coming to help a primitive species," he said quietly. "Tomorrow they'll learn they might have something to learn from us as well." As their shuttle docked with the Frontier, Admiral Winters was waiting. For them. "How did it go?" she asked. Rodriguez smiled. "They laughed at us, Admiral. But I don't think they'll be laughing tomorrow." Morning came quickly aboard the USS Frontier. Commander John Ellis had barely slept. He had spent most of the night reviewing the plans for today's demonstration with Captain Lisa Bennett and her weapons team. "All systems are ready, Commander," Bennett reported as Ellis entered the bridge. She was tall and confident with 20 years of military service behind her. "The target drones have been positioned at ranges from 1,000 to 50,000 kilometers," Ellis nodded. "And the special modifications?" "Complete," Bennett confirmed with a small smile. "The Vexari are in for quite a show." Admiral Winters had given clear orders. The demonstration needed to be impressive enough to change the Vexari's perception of human capabilities, but not so overwhelming that it would appear threatening. It was a delicate balance to strike. Ellis checked his watch. "The Vexari delegation will be arriving in 30 minutes. Ambassador Rodriguez is already in the observation lounge preparing for them." "We won't let her down," Bennett promised. When Ellis reached the observation lounge, he found Rodriguez reviewing notes with Dr. Reed. The large viewing windows showed the vastness of space, with Earth a beautiful blue marble in the distance. "Are we ready, Commander?" Rodriguez asked. "Yes, Ambassador. Captain Bennett has everything prepared." Reed looked nervous. "Remember, this is about showing capability without appearing deceptive. The Vexari respect strength, but they despise dishonesty." "We haven't been dishonest," Rodriguez replied. "We simply haven't shown all our cards yet." The door slid open, and a junior officer appeared. "Ambassador, the Vexari shuttle has docked. The delegation is on their way." Rodriguez straightened her uniform jacket. "Showtime." Minutes later, High Commander Vextari entered the observation lounge, followed by Ambassador Zeroth and 3 other Vexari officers. Their compound eyes took in the room with obvious interest. Welcome to the USS Frontier, Rodriguez greeted them. We're honored by your presence. Vextari's mandibles clicked once. We are curious about this accuracy trial you mentioned yesterday. Of course, Rodriguez replied smoothly. Commander Ellis will explain the demonstration as it proceeds. Ellis stepped forward. The previous demonstration you observed showed our standard training protocols. Today you'll see our combat targeting systems operating at full capacity. He gestured to the large view screen on the wall, which displayed a tactical map of the solar system. Small dots represented the target drones at various distances. We've positioned 20 target drones at different ranges, Ellis explained. Some are stationary, others are moving in unpredictable patterns. Some have basic shields similar to those used by pirate vessels in our region. Vextari's eyes flickered with interest. And you will be using actual combat protocols this time? Yes, Ellis confirmed. Full targeting systems engaged, live ordnance. He tapped his communicator. Captain Bennett, you may begin when ready. Bennett's voice came through clearly. Understood, Commander. Beginning accuracy trial in 3, 2, 1. Weapons free. Outside the observation window, the USS Frontier's missile bays opened. A dozen small, sleek missiles launched simultaneously, their engines glowing bright against the blackness of space. Unlike in the previous demonstration, these missiles flew with perfect precision. On the tactical display, the humans could see what the Vexari were witnessing, each missile tracking unerringly toward its target. The first impacts came seconds later. The closest drones simply vanished in brief flashes of light. The more distant ones took longer to reach, but the result was the same. Perfect hits, complete destruction. The Vexari delegation stood in silence, their mandibles completely still. Next, railgun demonstration, Bennett announced over the comm. The Frontier's railguns activated. Unlike conventional weapons, these electromagnetic accelerators fired small projectiles at incredibly high speeds. They had been developed specifically for space combat, where their speed and accuracy made them nearly impossible to evade. On the tactical display, the projectiles appeared as thin lines streaking toward their targets. Each one hit with perfect accuracy, even the targets that were maneuvering unpredictably. Now our laser targeting system, Bennett continued. The ship's laser batteries engaged. Invisible to the naked eye, their effects were clearly visible on the remaining drones. Some were sliced cleanly in half. Others had precise surgical damage to specific components. Ellis watched the Vexari carefully. Their body language had changed completely from the previous demonstration. Gone was the subtle condescension. Now they stood rigid, their compound eyes fixed on the view screen. For our final demonstration, Ellis said, we'll show our long-range precision capabilities. On his signal, the Chinese vessel, Long Peace, which had been hidden on the far side of Mars, fired a single missile. The tactical display showed its path, a journey of over 50 million kilometers. This target, Ellis explained, is at the edge of our solar system. The missile will take approximately 8 minutes to reach it. Vexitari turned to Ellis, his mandibles moving rapidly. Your weapons have this range? This is standard range. For our long-distance strike capabilities, Ellis replied calmly. It wasn't a lie. Earth's military had developed these weapons years ago, though they were rarely used in practice. The 8 minutes passed in uncomfortable silence. Then, on the tactical display, the final drone disappeared as the missile made a direct hit. Accuracy trial complete, Bennett announced. All targets neutralized with 100% precision. Ellis turned to the Vexari delegation. This concludes our demonstration. The silence that followed was profound. Finally, Vextari spoke, his voice different than before, slower, more careful. Yesterday, you mentioned practice protocols during your previous demonstration. You said humans deliberately miss targets during training. That's correct, Rodriguez confirmed. It's a long-standing tradition in human military operations. We use calculated near misses to preserve resources and minimize space debris, while still collecting the necessary training data. You intentionally miss? Zyroth asked. clearly struggling with the concept. Ellis nodded. Yes. There's no point destroying expensive drones in every practice session. We save perfect accuracy for when it matters. The Vexari delegation conferred, among themselves in their own language, speaking too quickly for the translation system to keep up. Finally, Vextari turned back to the humans. In our culture, he said slowly, we demonstrate maximum capability at all times. The concept of deliberately performing below capacity is foreign to us. Dr. Reed stepped forward. Different species evolve different strategies, High Commander. Humans developed in an environment where conserving energy and resources was crucial to survival. We learned to practice with restraint, saving our full effort for when it truly matters. I see, Vextari said, though it was clear he was still processing this information. Ambassador Rodriguez smiled diplomatically. Now that you've seen our actual capabilities, perhaps we should revisit the alliance terms you proposed yesterday. I believe a more equal partnership would benefit both our species. Vexitari's compound eyes fixed on Rodriguez for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, his mandibles clicked in what the humans recognized as amusement. Indeed, Ambassador, he said, it seems we have much to learn from each other. The terms of our proposal will need significant revision. As the Vexari delegation left to return to their ship, Ellis joined Rodriguez by the observation window. That went well, he said quietly. Rodriguez nodded. Better than expected. Did you see their faces when that final drone was hit? I don't think they'll be laughing at us anymore, Ellis replied. No, Rodriguez agreed. But now comes the hard part. Building a real alliance based on mutual respect rather than perceived superiority. Ellis looked out at the stars. Somewhere in that vastness were other alien species, some perhaps even more advanced than the Vexari. The galaxy was bigger and more complex than humanity had ever imagined. You know, he said thoughtfully, there's an old human saying, it's not about how hard you can hit, it's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. Rodriguez smiled. I think we just taught the Vexari that sometimes the ability to hold back is just as important as the ability to strike. 6 months had passed since the accuracy demonstration. The large meeting hall in Geneva was filled with representatives from both Earth and the Vexari Dominion. Sunlight streamed through the tall windows, casting a warm glow over the historic moment about to unfold. Admiral Patty Winters stood at the back of the room, watching as Ambassador Kelly Rodriguez and High Commander Vextari prepared to sign the official alliance treaty. Commander John Ellis stood beside her, his uniform freshly pressed for the occasion. Did you ever think we'd get here? Ellis asked quietly. Winters shook her head. Not in my lifetime. 6 months ago they were laughing at our primitive weapons. Now they're signing a treaty that recognizes us as equals. Dr. Olivia Reed joined them, carrying a tablet filled with notes. It's more than recognition, she said. They've completely changed their approach to interspecies relations because of us. Because they realized we miss on purpose, Ellis added with a small smile. The treaty being signed was nothing like the original proposal the Vexari had offered. Instead of Earth providing resources in exchange for protection, both species would share technology, scientific knowledge, and defensive responsibilities. The Vexari would still establish outposts in the solar system, but they would be joint operations with human personnel working alongside aliens. The concept of deliberate restraint has fascinated them, Reed explained. They've been studying human sports, games, even our training methods. The idea that holding back can be strategic was revolutionary to their culture. At the signing table, Rodriguez and Vextari touched their styluses to the digital document simultaneously. Applause filled the room as cameras flashed. The Vexari have even begun implementing practice protocols in their own military, Winters noted. Their accident rate has dropped by 60% already. And what have we learned from them? Ellis asked. Precision, Reed replied. Their approach to efficiency has helped us improve our production methods, reduce waste, and enhance our technology. It's truly a mutual exchange. After the signing ceremony, the reception allowed humans and Vexari to mingle more casually. Ellis watched as Vexitari approached Ambassador Rodriguez with what appeared to be a gift. a small crystal sculpture that caught the light in beautiful patterns. A token of appreciation, Bexistari said, his voice now familiar to the humans who worked with him regularly. From one equal to another. Rodriguez accepted it with a gracious nod. Thank you, High Commander. We look forward to a long and beneficial alliance. I must admit, Bexitari said, his mandibles clicking softly in amusement. When we first observed your ships missing those targets, we thought humans were simply inaccurate. Rodriguez smiled. And now? Now we understand that knowing when to show your full capabilities is as important as having them in the first place, Bextari replied. A valuable lesson we will not forget. As the reception continued, Ellis found himself standing by a window, looking up at the evening sky where the first joint human Vixari space station was being constructed in orbit. Admiral Winters joined him. Thinking deep thoughts, Commander? Just reflecting on how a simple misunderstanding led to all this, Ellis replied. They laughed at us for missing our targets. And now they're learning to miss on purpose themselves, Winters finished. Sometimes, the greatest strength isn't in showing power, but in knowing when to hold it back. Outside the window, the first stars were becoming visible in the darkening sky. Somewhere out there, other alien species were going about their lives, unaware that two different civilizations had found common ground, not through force, but through mutual understanding. The Vexari had come to Earth expecting to find a primitive species in need of guidance. Instead, they found equals who had something valuable to teach them. Sometimes the most powerful shot is the one you choose not to take.